Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live. It is wonderful to be in front of you once again. Just did a live yesterday, trauma versus healing, or I think trauma and healing. Just go through it. If you have not seen that live stream, check that out. I just did that yesterday, um, and you'll be able to go through all of that where I break down what trauma and what it means to heal and just be willing to confront things. Right. I could either go into that topic again, but I'm not going to do that. We have a topic today that we're going to be discussing, and it's going to be talking about things that are happening with, the U.S. dollar, the de-dollarization, and more specifically, I want to talk about the illusion and of the illusion of riches and wealth, and particularly how it pertains in the United States, and I think particularly when it comes to the Black community, and how it is very, very easy to try to exploit one another, not just to be in the community, but I think in other communities as well, because we have this idea about wealth and money um, that just may not match up and usually doesn't match up to the realities of what's going on in the world. So I want to take some time to put things into perspective. We're also going to be talking about bricks and how this is how the things going on in bricks as the de-dollarization is happening across multiple countries and continuing to do so is playing a role in how we are living our lives through this dollar and the misperception and misconceptions that we are having about money. But before we get into that, make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure that you share to someone that could use this. I think this is really going to be important to talk about, especially when we start dealing with aspects of money and how we are willing to exploit ourselves and other people through this particular currency that is highlighted to be the strongest in the world and is going through this time period of collapsing and being the structure is being opposed as we speak. So we're gonna go ahead and get into that. Make sure that you hit the like button, and let's just go ahead and dive right in. All right. So before we start really getting into that, last year I was seeking to do some research about Mahalia Jackson. I felt compelled to do so since there was a lot about Black history, my own history that I did not know, and I wanted to start off with someone that would be a good starting point. Just somebody that I knew, somebody that is well known in Black history and in American history in general. And the first person that came to my mind last year was Mahalia Jackson. For those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do know, but you need the reintroduction, Mahalia Jackson was a phenomenal singer her time, particularly within the civil rights era. Played a major contribution in breaking down so many racial barriers with her gospel singing and music, which is what she's known for, as well as the support that she had made contributed with the civil rights. All right, so I started looking through Wikipedia. I just want to try to get something to start me off with, knowing more about her. And in the process, I found out something very interesting that I think we should pay attention to when it comes to how money is perceived now, as opposed to what it was in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s throughout the lifetime of Mahalia Jackson. At least just from the years, right? We're just taking the time to look at the years and how much the weight was from those years compared to now. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. And so let's take our time to get things set up here. I want to make sure that I get everything properly done here. All right, so take myself off. Um, if you're still here and you're watching with me, let me know if you can hear me, if you can still see me. I want to make sure that everything is set up properly for this particular conversation. For some reason, um, my my StreamYard trying to is acting a little funny, but that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and get right into this. All right. So as long as people are with me, we're just gonna go ahead. So I wanted to start about here. So this right here was the 1928 to 1931. This is during the time of the Great Depression, right? It's very interesting that we're talking about that and talking about bricks. But that's later in the conversation. So this is talking about her, you know, going for the Great Migration, moving from the South to Chicago. Um, and so Mahalia Jackson was going there. But here's something I want you all to pay attention to, right? Um, this particular sentence here. Um, to hide her movements, pastors urged her to wear loose fitting robes, where she had lifted a few inches off the ground, and they accused her of employing snake hips while dancing with the spirit moving her. Okay. So here we go here. Um, Enduring another indignity, Jackson scraped together $4, equivalent to $68 in 2022, to pay back a Black operated tenor for a professional assessment of her voice. Now, this is one thing that I want you all to pay attention to here. This was, I think, 1931, I believe. Okay, so this was like in the 1920s. So this is the late 1920s, somewhere around there. $4 at that time, in those times, compares to $68 in 2022. Now, as you know, during that time, the dollar was backed by um, was backed by gold, right? It was still backed by the gold standard. It wasn't removed until 1971, but we're gonna get more into that. Let's go ahead and keep going. I'm trying my best to try to keep things together, but I need for us to really have an understanding of the difference of the money that we have now as opposed to back then, and how this plays a role in how we're viewing wealth, right? So let's continue. See another comparison here. Um, okay, so we'll go down here. Um, so this right here it says Jackson became a laundress and took a series of domestic and factory jobs while the Johnson singers began to make a meager living, earning from $1.50 to $8, equivalent to $26 and $140 in 2022 a night. Again, this is very important. I think this was 1930. I think this is like 1929, 1930-ish right here. Let me highlight it again. $1.50 to $8, equivalent to $26 to $140 in 2022. Guys, that is huge. Can you imagine that? That your $1 at that time probably equates somewhere to $25 today. All right, so let's keep going. There's some more comparisons that I want to share here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, all right. So continuing further, in 1932, on Dawson's request, she sang for Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidential campaign. She had become the only professional gospel singer in Chicago. Sometimes she made $10 a week, equivalent to $214 in 2022, in what historian Michael Harris calls an almost unheard of professionalism of one's sacred calling. Again, let's highlight something very important here. $10 a week, $10 at that time was equivalent to $214 as of last year, 2022. Now we're still going to be calculating to see how that changes in 2023. I know when I did this last year, the video's gone now, but when I did this last year, it was a different amount, I believe. But this is what it is now in 2022. $10 equates to 214 now. Um, let's see what else. Okay, we're gonna go down here. Um, okay, so okay. So we'll do this. We'll just put it all together here. At one point, Hawkins Hall had been laid off, and he and Jackson had less than $1 between them. He saw the audition for the Swing Mikado, the jazz flavored retailer of Gilbert and Sullivan opera, were taking place. He demanded she go. She, I believe, referring to Mahalia. The role would pay $60 a week, equivalent to $1,265 in 2022. Plus, he saw no value in singing gospel. But here again, you see this major difference here? This was, well, I think this was 1932, right here. Wasn't entirely, not entirely sure. It's somewhere around there. But just look at the difference here. $60 equates to $1,265. As I'm taking my time to do this, if you haven't already, make sure that you hit the like button. We're going to take some time to really learn something here because we're really going to be understanding the power of our dollar today and how much it has fallen has fallen, particularly as far as the weight is concerned, and as far as the illusion of wealth and riches that the dollar portrays um, everywhere. But we're going to keep going. All right. Um, so let me see what other. This is 1951. Okay. Let me see what else I could try to find that has an amount to work with. Okay. Okay. So here we go. So this right here, I think is what, 1947. So time constraints forced her to give up the choir director position in St. Luke Baptist Church and sell the beauty shop. True to her own rules, she turned down lucrative appearances at New York City institutions, the Apollo Theater and the Village Vanguard, where she was promised $5,000 a week, equivalent to $110,000 in 2022. All right. So here again, $5,000 a week, 5,000 equated to as of last year, $110,000. Okay. Let me see if I can find one more. Well, actually, I'm good. I could find. I think if I one more, I think I did a conversion with one of the money things. Okay, so here we go. 1954, right? Still backed by the gold, right? Still backed by gold, and as far as the standard for the dollar. Um, hold on, let me try to expand here. Let's see. So in 1954, Jackson learned that Bierman had been withholding royalties and had allowed her contract with Apollo to expire. Mitch Miller offered her a $50,000 a year, equivalent to $540,000 in 2022, a 4-year contract. And Jackson became the first gospel artist to sign with Columbia Records, a much larger company, with her ability to promote her nationally. But again, let's focus here. $50,000 a year, equivalent to $540,000 in 2022. Okay, this is where we are now. This is where we are with the dollar now. So I know this is long, but I need you guys to work with me. I hope that you guys are learning something. I hope you're able to see something here. Let's see if I could find one more. But if not, I got another one that I saw. Um, that I think that you could gain from that. Um, but she raised $5,000. Okay, so I'm gonna get to that. Let me see if I got one more spot where there is money. Okay, I think this right here is getting towards like the end of her life. So this was in 1962. Again, $50,000. Um, so it says here her clout and royalty to Kennedy earned her an invitation to sing at the Star Spangled Banner in his inaugural ball, which is referring to John F. Kennedy in 1961. Months later, she helped raise $50,000 for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So I took the liberty of, and I think this is the last one that talks about money. So I took the liberty of going through um, Google to see how much is $50,000 in 1961, compared to, what is it now? I don't know if I could get it to last year to 2022, but I try to get it as close as I can to around that time. So it says that it is the $50,000 in 1961 is approximately $511,189. So close, like probably around 190. Let's again. So $50,000 in 1961 is approximately $511. 500. I'm sorry, $511,189. All right. So here's what I'm trying to get to, and what we really need to understand, especially now, as BRICS is rising. More countries are trying to get away from the dollar, so that way that they could be free from the economic tyranny that the U.S. government is creating um, in this moment in time. Um, we have, I think that one of the things that we have done, I think particularly when it comes to our community, is that we have seen the dollar as something that is supposed to represent riches, and something that is supposed to represent something of access and wealth. And yes, it is the legal tender of this country. However, it is also a representation as no. It First of all, it has lost a whole lot of value from where it has started, a century ago compared to what it is now. But more importantly, with the amount of debt that we have in this particular country, it's pretty much by and large a representation of the debt. And now what we're seeing as people are, having their complaints, the sanctions and all that stuff around the country, it's becoming a representation of the tyranny that the United States has been creating for a very long time. And now that people are trying to pull away from it, people are starting to join BRICS. We know recently BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They've recently had new countries to be part of BRICS. I think it's Iran, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, UAE, which is the United Arab Emirates, and Ethiopia. That's what it was. Ethiopia. There are countries that are now trying to release themselves from the dollar. As you know, it is still the number one Federal Reserve in this country as it stands now. But as people pull away from it, and then we have the inflation that's happening. We have all these things that are going on within the country, but outside the country, we can clearly see that the position that it's holding as the number one currency in the world, um, and the legal tender here, and the federal currency that goes all across the world, we see that the illusion is starting to slip away. Well, not just starting, it's slipping away more and more and more. And so I want to try to put it from the perspective of how we are still trying to exploit ourselves for a currency that has not only lost value throughout the because they keep printing money. It's no longer backed by gold. It was away from the gold in 1971 with President Nixon. We are watching the Federal Reserve. We're watching banks fail. We're watching, stores close. We're watching things that are closing right in front of our faces. We were looking now at a possible lockdown. We're looking at possibly another depression that's coming through. All the signs and patterns are showing that a depression is coming, and it's more than likely going to be worse than what we had before. It puts into perspective the illusion that fiat currency, in particular with the US dollar, has created for a lot of us, particularly those who have caused a lot of harm in our community, and continue to do so through exploitations, even from the standpoint of social media, and so many other things. Uh, Being able to sell our souls for a currency that is losing its grip, um, more and more, and it's probably and will lose its grip more and more as time goes on. As in, it's in much debt, has practically no way to try to pay this money back. And so I want to really encourage you all to really start seeking what is an asset for you. If you really value your community, you value it as an asset, right? You're not thinking about the dollar or the currency that it is as the asset, because that is we're starting to see that that's falling away. We're starting to see how fragile that is coming more and more. Um, and more importantly, what are you really seeing to be wealth? For a lot of people, just to have a whole bunch of stacks of the paper money of the US dollar, they think that that thing is wealth. They think that thing is supposed to be riches. They think that's supposed to be the access that they need, even at even at our expense, right? No matter what the position may be, social media, politics, um, religious centers, especially when it comes to churches. No matter the case, people are trying to exploit each other for fiat currency, right? That happens that happens everywhere. The whole world suffers a great deal because of the need of trying to get resources, trying to extract wealth for the sake of money, for the sake of just wanting to hold dominance in those positions. But I really had a heart for sharing that, particularly with Black people, because I'm watching the same thing happen in the spaces that we are in too. And it's happened especially when it comes to social media, exploiting trauma, which I talked about in my last video, trauma and healing, exploiting trauma, exploiting gender wars, exploiting a whole lot of things, and even lying and misrepresenting history and miseducating people about things that are going on, all for the sake of trying to gain money, trying to gain something that we are clearly seeing is coming apart, is coming undone, and most importantly, is a representation now of this country's debt. And we're always going to try to find more of it as this inflation keeps going higher, and we're getting ourselves into more and more recession, and and not possibly, we're entering into depression. So this is an important opportunity to start really thinking about your assets. What do you see as an asset? What do you have as assets? What are you investing into? And stop focusing so much on just trying to get money, especially if it's something that you got to do to exploit people for it. And build up your life. I mean, that's really all I can really say about that. Build up your life, build up your wealth. What is it that you have that can grow? If you really and truly believe in the community, then that means that even if you do have this currency, you're working to build up the community. You're working to build up the people, because the people are the wealth. I see us as physical, biological wealth. We're supposed to be an asset. We're supposed to be someone that is supposed to grow and develop and go further, which is why having the proper education, having the proper standpoint of where we stand in the present and the past and the future is so important. That is supposed to be the focal point. Hey there, welcome to everyone. Thank you for hearing me. That is supposed to be the focal point that we are supposed to be thinking about. Um, we should not be living for money. We should not be living for the legal tender that is again, not only coming apart, but just something that the government is saying that it's okay to accept for debt, right? But we are supposed to focus on what should be growing, what should be the asset, what should be the main thing that is going to help us go forward. That's how you leave legacy. That's how you leave generational wealth. If you start seeing yourself as wealth, you start seeing your community as wealth, you start seeing your people as wealth, start seeing your kids as wealth, then that is the thing that you would use your money or whatever asset that you have towards growth. All right. So I want us to start thinking about, I want us to think less. I would like, I can't say I want to. I would like for us to see money and wealth differently. Um, Wealth should be the focal point, not the money aspect. If you can understand what I'm saying. And as time goes forth, as things start changing, we're really going to have to start rethinking about what is wealth, what is what should our riches be towards, so that we have a future to progress towards. And that's really all that I wanted to say. I I wanted to come back to this topic about the weight of money and the changes with money, because money has changed significantly. The United States dollar has is seen as the number one Federal Reserve currency in the world, but there's not a whole lot of history to show how much that dollar has changed significantly over the course of time. We just saw from I think the early 1920s, $4 in those times is now $68 today. Can you imagine that? The $68 that you have right now used to be worth $4 at that time, at that particular time. And that was before the Great Depression really started to take flight. All right. So focus less on what your money is going to be about. Focus more on your asset. What is a tangible asset? And particularly if you're community minded, your asset should be about the community. Your asset should be about your local community, empowering other communities, empowering other people to grow, and not exploiting them so that way that you could get money for your own self. You yourself, you know, as much of an asset you may be, for the world, you yourself are not the number one asset like that. We need each other. We need other people. We are social creatures, and we need to take the time to really use everything in our power to seek resources that will help us to grow and be better as people, as community. All right. And I'm going to do a topic later. I plan to do a topic eventually talking about how race is not the same thing as a community. Race or ethnicity is not the same as community. We're going to have a conversation about that eventually. I got a whole bunch of topics I want to talk about. I'm still doing some research about Lilith and the pattern that I'm seeing with a lot with women who are using that to try to dominate other women and try to dominate femininity and all that type of stuff. We'll get to that one eventually. But for now, this will conclude this topic um, of the illusions of wealth and riches under de-dollarization, and talking about the weight of the dollar and all that type of stuff over the course of the century. All right. So thank you all for listening. Again, if you want to take some time to see how much the money has changed within this 1 century, I advise you to go to either Google or Chat GPT, somewhere where they can help you to break down the research of that, because this is a very, very it's a very serious thing. Um, and this really shows us how we view the idea of money and wealth, and how there is a miseducation that is going on, that money automatically equates to riches and wealth, despite the fact that these certain people are not investing into what is supposed to be an asset. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And until the next video, I'm really taking my time to create more content here, and I hope that you are enjoying. All right. So until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Oh, and catch the replay. Catch the replay if you can. Oh, I thought I hit the end broadcast. Catch the replay if you missed it. Make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure that you share this with somebody who needs this, particularly somebody who is struggling with understanding what wealth is and what to build tangible assets for, and what is an asset or who is an asset. In this moment in time, figuring out who is an asset is of utmost importance. And what is an aspect? What is an asset is of utmost importance as the de-dollarization is changing. Figure out where you need to be that will help you to be in a better place for growth. All right. So I will catch you guys later. See you.